this is from New Lines magazine, where a fanatical Israeli settlement is being funded by New York suburbanites, but recent U.S. sanctions against violent West Bank settlers have put them and their connections to America back on the agenda.
Mm.
New York watch manufacturer Eugen Gluck had something to celebrate in November 2017. His granddaughter had just given birth to a child, Gluck's 24th great-grandchild. A few weeks later, the Gluck family would preside on their 25th annual Bet El dinner, described as one of the most highly attended and important events of the Jewish community social calendar. The Bet El dinner took place at the posh Marriott Marquis Ballroom in Manhattan every year until 2019, when Gluck passed away. Its purpose was to raise money for the Israeli settlement Bet El, which was built on Palestinian land in occupied West Bank.
Bite means home, so
Yeah.
that's what. And Greg, is this when is this article from? Is there a date on it?
The 14th, 12th of last month.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. That same month, dread was spread across Jalazon, a cramped Palestinian refugee camp in the shadow of Beit El. As part of the project to expand Bet El's fortifications, the Israeli military closed the main road to the Jalazon in November 2017. Ramadan, not even going to say that, head of the local medical clinic, began witnessing hour-long traffic delays for patients and doctors. They told the Israeli Human Rights Organization that the roadblock leads
Betzelem. That's Betzelem.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
Leads to the patient suffering and makes it very difficult for our teams. He noted that if there is a birth, a stroke, a serious injuries, or fracture, this time is critical. 6 years later, the situation in Jalazon would grow more dire. After the October 7th attack on Israel by Hamas and the Israeli retaliation campaign in Gaza, the war quickly spread to the West Bank, which I said it would. Mm-hmm. Israeli settler vigilantes attacked their Palestinian neighbors, driving several villages off the land entirely. The Israeli armed raided Jalazon several times in the alleged Hamas members. 2 Palestinian locals were killed in the raids.
This was the same, remember Jabalia refugee camp in Gaza. Mm-hmm. Remember how, one day it was a big shock, that it was bombed, that Israeli bombed it, and they were looking for a, quote unquote, looking for a Hamas leader. And they've now subsequently bombed that same place probably 8 to 10 times and basically leveled it, flattened it to the ground.
Baruch Gordon, head of the external fundraising for Bet El, sent an unusual appeal on October 10th to his email list of supporters. We're not spreading this message far and wide. The subject line read, Bet El was raising money to protect Yeshuvim surrounded by Arab villages. The Hebrew term yeshuv, residential community, is often used by settlement supporters to erase the distinction between I don't
know. I think it's Hitnaklut, but I couldn't tell you for sure.
And the towns in the Israel proper. The most sought after, vital, and literally life-saving item for defending the yeshuvim is a drone equipped with a thermal camera that detects approaching terrorists at night. Gordon wrote, supporters could donate online or write a check to Israel Empowered. a New York-based charity. For years, the U.S. considered Israeli settlements an obstacle to peace in theory, but was willing to tolerate them in practice. The Trump administration even proposed that Israel should annex the settlements. The latest escalations, however, have put settlers and their connections to America back on the agenda. In November 2023, the Biden administration announced a ban on unarmed Israeli extremists attacking civilians in the West Bank from entering the U.S. And in February, it imposed financial sanctions on 4 settler figures.
Yeah, that's an unnamed Israeli extremist, not unarmed.
Oh, unnamed, sorry.
It's all right.
Settler figures. U.S. officials have reportedly held up sales of rifles to Israel over concerns that they will be used in attacks by settlers, which we know they would.
Exactly.
Gordon told New Lines via voice note that the sanctions were a huge miscarriage of justice. He knows 2 of the sanctioned individuals, Yanon Levy and David Shasidi. Gordon describes them as farmers and insists they were never convicted of a crime.
That's a lot of BS.
Yeah.
If Joe Biden considers them worth sanctioning, they got to be somebody pretty bad, because Joe Biden turns his back on so many things. Sorry, Pred.
Yeah, he does. He's a prick that way. U.S. Secretary of State Blinken said in his sanctions announcement that Levy led a group that assaulted Palestinians and Bedouin civilians, threatened them with additional violence if they did not leave their homes, burned their fields, and destroyed their property. Blinken said accused Shasidi of inciting the infamous February 2023 riot in Huwara that killed a Palestinian in retaliation for the Palestinian shooting of 2 Israelis. Israeli authorities detained but did not charge Shasidi after the Huwara violence in 2016. An Israeli court sentenced him to 6 months in jail after he was found outside a Palestinian village with gasoline and a club, which we know what the hell he was going to do there. Gordon repeated,
I was going to say, now suppose that was a Palestinian that was found like that. He'd get a super harsh sentence or be killed or whatever.
I think he would be killed on the spot, and with no remorse and no regret.
Gordon repeatedly insisted that the Palestinian violence against Israelis is the real problem. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs recorded 1,225 incidents of settler violence against Palestinians in 2023 and 140 incidents of the Palestinian violence against Israeli settlers, which I don't blame them. That's self-defense.
Exactly.
Some Democrats have sought harsher sanctions against the settler movement than Biden is offering. In May 2023, 5 months before the current war started, New York State Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani proposed the Not on Our Dime bill. It would forbid tax-exempt charities in New York from supporting Israeli settlements in the Palestinian territories and allow Palestinians harmed by the settlers to sue pro-settlement charities in New York courts. A lot of money is at stake. An investigator by the Israeli newspaper Haaretz found that the settlements received $220 million in total from the American charities from 2009 to 2013. Americans have donated millions more to settlements, settlers, militias, and Israeli army units in the Palestinian territories since October 7th through a platform called Israel Gives, according to The Guardian.
And so you tell me that the people who are in the synagogue today weren't part of this movement?
Most
I find that,
likely they were.
yeah, I find that hard to believe.
Like, it's extremely likely that they were major donors of this.
Exactly.
Or
But
if not, they're well aware of it and they're much in support of it.
oh yeah, I'll be willing to bet you if you audited their bank accounts that you'll find donations. Two donors to the Israeli settlements include both Jewish and Christian Zionist organizations, with the latter subscribing to the belief that the state of Israel is fulfilling biblical prophecies about the Holy Land. Because these groups are considered nonprofit, non-governmental organizations under Section 501c3 of the U.S. Tax Code, Americans receive a tax break for the money they give to the settlement charities, while many Americans diaspora groups have raised money for migrant militant foreign causes. Doing so through legal charities is rarer. Several American nonprofits, which also provide Ukrainian fighters with drones, protective gear, and training classes. Mamdani's bill seeks to take the subsidy away from the donors to the settlements, which that should happen. They
Yes.
should not be getting tax breaks at all.
Why don't you try, if you want tax breaks and funding things, helping out the USA in different towns that need help?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of places where housing is at a premium, where rents are, a lot of people need affordable housing in the U.S. Good.
But we keep sending money over there.
Right, you got private people sending money over, and then you have the U.S. government sending money over.
Yeah, and it looks to me, the name Mamdani seems like Mamdani might be Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
But
much of the money moves through clearinghouses like the Israel Land Fund and Central Fund of Israel, making it harder to connect donors to the settlements they support. Critics of Mamdani's bill have attacked it for exactly that reason, because some pro-settlement organizations like the Center Fund of Israel also conduct work unrelated to settlements. Several New York State Assembly members wrote in a May 2023 open letter that a bill was a ploy to demonize Jewish charities with connections to Israel, which it should. They're funding terrorists.
And they're also, once again, the same issue that is at play with what happened in Teaneck today. This is, they're funding the theft of land from Palestinians, terrorists, and also thieves. They're thieves. They're subsidizing theft, land theft.
BL and its American supporters are different. There is no question of where the money goes, as two charities are dedicated specifically to the settlement. The American Friends of the BL Yeshiva Center funds a BL Yeshiva and Academy, where adult Jewish men study Talmud, the vast compendium of religious law and biblical commentary. Israel Empowered advertises its special projects, primarily a military preparatory academy in the settlement.
We know about those preparatory academies, don't we?
Oh,
yeah.
We know how they teach young people about being part of the military. We know, we've heard it. And we heard it yes.
Gordon appears to oversee fundraising for both. Names of the donors are proudly inscribed on both sides of the building. The settlers indeed have a lot to thank their American benefactors for. The American Friends of the BL Yeshiva Center took in from 1.8 to 3.5 million each year from 2011 to 2021, according to tax records. Israel Empowered, which gained nonprofit status in 2015, 2015 has taken in from 56 to 151,000 each year since then. Two of the famous BL donors, David Friedman and Jared Kushner, later went on to take prominent roles in the Trump administration. Friedman appointed U.S. ambassador to Israel, and Kushner, the former president's son-in-law, was put in charge of normalizing relations between Israel and the various Arab states, most notably the Gulf monarchies. Media coverage of BL has often overlooked its less famous American supporters. Many are respectable, pleasant, upper middle class professionals and their entrepreneurs who live in the suburbs of New York City. The social life and philanthropic work just happened to involve funding the ethnic conflict on the other side of the world.
Now that's a conflict of interest.
Major
Kushner.
conflict
Yes.
of interest.
We all remember Jared Kushner.
Mhm.
He did such a good job normalizing relations. Huh.
Yeah, and he even had Trump then, made Jerusalem?
Yeah, the capital of Israel. That was now to be fair, every president had the directive to do that. Not every president, but like for 3 or 4 presidents prior to Trump, but no one had the audacity to do it. It was kind of a directive given to them, but Trump was the only one who actually acted upon it.
Right, and then he made the claim about settlements as well.
What did he say about
He
that?
said about the settlements that they were legal, that they didn't have to listen to international law,
Oh, okay.
and he was pushing Israel to annex them and everything else. Now
Oh,
that was
right,
coming
right.
from, it was coming from Kushner.
The businessman.
Yeah. Trump I don't think he really cared. He just wanted to please his Zionist supporters.
Mm-hmm. For some attendees, the BL dinner seems to have been an exercise in keeping up with the Joneses. An online forum for Jewish women includes a thread debating what to wear to the 2009 banquet. Anyway, what should I wear to the huge dinner? They're honoring our good friends. It's a very fancy hotel in New York City. Schmorg. And anonymous
Smorgasbord.
yeah. An anonymous poster said, I would wear a ritzy looking suit with a diamond looking necklace, responded to one reader who recommended a store with a beautiful blazers downstairs. Others see BL as something like a hippie retreat.
Really? Hippie retreat?
Freak my ass.
Yeah, come on.
A pamphlet for the 2017 dinner quotes Lori Moshkowitz Hirsch, daughter of the late Irving Moshkowitz, a prominent right-wing activist donors in both Israel and the U.S. She is described as a frequent visitor to the West Bank settlements that her parents built. Yeah, built my ass. Moskowitz Hirsch waxed poetic about the humble simplicity of the settlers who were living a life of sacrifice, yet always have a smile on their face. These visits were important to her for her own spiritual fulfillment as well. Yeah, your spiritual fulfillment is fucked up. With a capital PH. When I lived in Israel, I hiked over the country. To every place that I come, there was a mind-body spiritual connection. Yeah, it was the fucking ghosts of the dead Palestinians that you're walking over, you idiot. Moshkowitz Hirsch said, according to a pamphlet, it starts with the Tanakh and extends to today. It's a different connection than in Miami or Colorado. In Israel, I sense a deep belonging. Yeah, it's more or less you're a colonizer. There are, however, signals to donors that project it's more about the Blazers and Bible study. The 2017 pamphlet also discusses Beit El's hotly debated enterprise to extend Israeli sovereignty throughout our land, despite immense pressure to the contrary. Videos played at the 2015 and 2016 dinners were filled with military imagery showing off the military prep school that the Israel empowered now supports. It is named for the Gluck family. Prominent materials claim that the school has now allowed disadvantaged
Mizrahim and Sephardim.
Jews of the Middle East and North African heritage, long underprivileged in Israel, to escape a bleak future of drugs, crime, and welfare. One email list message bagged that 29% of alumni choose to stay in the West Bank settlements after their military service. The 2015 video showed off a rest and refreshment stop for the soldiers built by youth in the settlement. Our soldiers will have a place to come, have a seat, make something hot to drink, and have a good time with friends between the activities in the Army, Beit El Youth Director Dazi Stern said, as a video of Israeli soldiers kicking down the door of the Palestinian homes played in the background. The video was set to upbeat music. Interactions between Israeli troops and the Palestinians near Beit El were not a good time with friends, to borrow Stern's phrase. During a protest by Jalazon residents in 2015, news crews filmed Israeli troops surrounding and beating an unarmed Palestinian man. The Israeli army promised to investigate. Speaking to Al Jazeera the following year, local psychiatrist Mohammed Abzi said that he was treating about 100 victims of Israeli torture from Jalazon. In October 2022, the army shot dead 2 Palestinians in Jalazon who were trying to ram troops with their car, a charge the Palestinian residents denied. So we already see what's happening here, folks. We see what's happening here full well and all that.
Mm-hmm.
There are quite a number of comments from Joe Logan, if you want to take a peek at them, about nonprofits and how profitable nonprofits can be, and how politicians don't really want to listen to us. This is a long article, Dee.
Yeah.
New Lines magazine. What is that? It looks a little bit like the New Yorker or something like that kind of publication.
Yes.
Is it left, right, center? Not political at all. Just more human interest stories.
Yeah. Because I just saw that. I was looking for information about with the West Bank, what was going on with the West Bank settlements and stuff. And then I saw this article.
Yeah, I mean, Joe, one thing that I wanted to respond to, the government is showing you in your face that they don't care about your opinion, and yet people still think they care about your vote.
That's the truth.
Yeah, and then the other one, it's just like he was talking about the protest. I believe Joe here was talking about the protest in Teaneck. It's just like at Standing Rock when the government had the National Guard and police shoot us with water cannons and rubber bullets. We were peaceful until then. And when they did that, of course we got pissed. And that's the part they showed on the news. Imagine that. And I think he
Exactly.
was
Exactly.
responding to the story about the skirmishes at the synagogue in Teaneck, and
Hmm.
explaining how that's just a common practice of the media. And I know that when I was living in New Jersey and we were preparing for actions like this one, we would often say, and don't get into a back and forth with anybody because you know that's what the press is going to pick up on.
Exactly.
But sometimes it's really hard not to. I mean, if you're being shot with water cannons and rubber bullets, I don't see how you can't respond. And that's just what the government and the media want.
And you saw who the government was with. They were with the corporations.
Oh, it's Standing Rock for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe even in Teaneck, they were more with because it was at a synagogue, maybe they were.
Y'all keep carrying on the discussion.
What's that?
I got to get me something to drink.
Okay. And
All
then
right.
we'll continue on.
Yeah, I'll wait till he comes back and then I will say goodnight. But
Yeah,
if you want,
because that was the interest that we did have was the money lines. When we were talking the other night about
yes,
with the settlements and trying to see if there was any kind of investigation or anybody looking into this where we knew the picture was bigger.
yeah, and this is involving some pretty big names. When you're talking about Jared Kushner, for example, and we know, I mean, how often have we talked about the late Sheldon Adelman and all of his money, and how all the candidates for president have been lining up trying to get not on his good side anymore, but his wife's good side, like RFK Jr. and others, to try to get that money. In order to get that money, you've got to be really pro-Israel. And former Governor Chris Christie from New Jersey really messed things up when he ran 4 years ago, because he talked about flying over occupied land when he left Israel, and he went to Sheldon, and he went 3/4 of the way across the country to kiss his feet and apologize, when he never apologized even once in New Jersey for having offended school teachers and other people. He never apologized to anyone. So it just speaks to how important that money is.
Yeah.
And
that's what they said. It's all about the money. What's that, Greg?
What breaks my heart most about this is all the whole situation around, especially with what we discussed last night with the babies and all that.
You mean the callous disregard that the Israelis have towards human life? If they have to be Palestinian?
Right, and we had seen that remember that show we did? We did a show on that with Gaza, how some of them were planning in North Gaza with building settlements there, oceanfront property and stuff like that. Like, how sick can you be?
Or how entitled? I mean, they really
They're
feel
selfish. They're entitled.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have any regard for human life. Like last year when we did a show that really broke me, it was about Mr. Suleiman.
Yes.
That one broke me.
Yes, it did. I remember. You actually had to hold back tears. You heard your voice cracking. It was very upsetting.
I was not part of the team at that point. I don't think. I wasn't part of that show.
Okay. We'll let Greg continue on.
Gordon,
I'm gonna very quietly disappear now.
Okay,
you have a good night, Madeline.
You too. Good night.
Good night. Thank you so much.
And don't forget to buy her some Palestinian-owned coffee as well. Gordon, the fundraiser, is a self-described vegan and yoga enthusiast. He often uses the American Friends of the Beit El Yeshiva Center mailing list to promote articles about right-wing politics. In a February 2020 video lecture, he explained his worldview. The Hebrew nation's sovereignty over the land of Israel is above all humanity. Rationality is above all. Wow. Above all human rationality and reason, and it's for the benefit of mankind. If the inhabitants of the land accept our sovereignty on our terms, they can stay and prosper. If not, God is commanding us to destroy or expel them.
That's crazy talk.
The video featured a cartoon boot kicking cartoon Palestinians off a map of Israel and the Palestinian territories. Since the October 7th massacres, his tone on the mailing list has grown more urgent. Gordon has shared an article claiming that Hamas and the general populace of Gaza are one and the same. So they're trying to equate all Palestinians in with the very people that were created and funded by the Israeli government.
Mm-hmm.
Since the October 7th massacre, that Hamas was followed by a video calling for the complete depopulation of Gaza because there are no innocents there. Another article shared by Gordon calls for Israel to spread the population of the Arab terror capital as Gaza amongst other various countries of the world and resettle Gaza with Jewish Israelis. The Geneva Conventions, the international treaties establishing the laws of war, state that a country shall not deport or transfer part of its own civilian population into the territory it occupies. Much of the international community and the UN, which is useless, and the Red Cross consider the West Bank settlements a violation of that rule. The U.S. held the same position until 2019, when the Trump administration declared that the settlements are not per se illegal. Israel insists that the West Bank is merely disputed territory, which it calls by its biblical name, Judea and Samaria, rather than occupied part of a foreign country. The 2017 pamphlet includes a timeline of the Beit El's history in the settlers' eyes. The prophet Abraham built an altar at the Beit El in 1737 BCE, as told in Genesis 13. Roman armies destroyed the altar in 170 CE. The timeline then jumps forward to another couple of millennia to 1977 CE, when 15 Jewish families, primarily from the greater Jerusalem area, reestablished the ancient Jewish city. A lot of history has had to happen. First, the birth of the Zionist movement, which sought to create a Jewish state in the Levant, the portion of the Ottoman Empire into the European colonial zones, and the 1948 war that led to the creation of Israel and the expulsion of 700,000 Palestinians. But the single most, we already see this, that's how the 700,000 Palestinians were forced and displaced into the Gaza Strip.
Mm-hmm.
That's what really happened during the Nakba of 1947, 1948. But the single most relevant event for the creation of Beit El was the Six-Day War of 1967. From 1948 to 1967, the West Bank had been under control under the control of the Jordanian government. Jalazon was one of the 19 camps set up by the UN to house Palestinian refugees in the territory. Israel conquered the West Bank in the 1967 war, and the Israeli army set up a military base on the hilltop overlooking Jalazon. 10 years later, Israeli army veteran and future politician Yaakov Katz led a group of right-wing activists to squat on the base, which he declared to be the biblical Beit El. Katz soon found a foreign guardian angel for his project, the American watchmaker Eugen Gluck. Born in 1927 to a Romanian Jewish family, Gluck had survived Nazi concentration camps during World War II, then migrated to America after the war. He founded a watchmaking business and created the Armatron, one of the first successful digital timepieces, in 1975. Having risen from rags to riches, he put his wealth into a variety of nonprofit projects, from a volunteer ambulance corps in New York, holiday festivals in Jerusalem. Gluck and his wife, Jean, were a dynamic duo who transformed the bitter memories of the Holocaust into a lifetime commitment to the survival of the Jewish people and the state of Israel. According to a eulogy by Rachel Wolf, head of the American Committee of Shair Zadik Medical Center, which raises money for the Hebrew University Teaching Hospital in Israel. It was Gluck's support for the settler movement, the annual Beit El dinners he had hosted, that really made him the talk of the town. The fundraisers became a way for Republicans, many of them Christian, to show their support for a maximalist vision of Israel. 3 future Trump administration officials, Kushner, Friedman, and future National Security Advisor John Bolton, showed up to the 2017 dinner, along with then Rep. Ron DeSantis of Florida, Republican presidential candidates Mike Huckabee in 2000, who ran in 08 and 16, and Michelle Bachmann, who ran in 2012, appeared at previous dinners. So we already see right here that they were already planning future presidential administrations.
Yes. The Zionism right there, right on the wall. It doesn't matter whether you're Jewish or Christian. They just want a Zionist.
This stuff just never stops.
And to me, it's a shame this Gluck guy got involved in all this. Because they're saying, oh, it's so great because of the West Bank and all he's done, but it's harmed the Palestinians.
Mm-hmm. This has put a lot of people at harm's way, and it's done more to actually harm people than good.
Mm-hmm.
Other attendees were less famous than Bolton and DeSantis. The list of prominent Beit El dinner supporters is filled with doctors, lawyers, and small business owners. Many hail from the 5 towns, a leafy patch of suburbia outside of NYC on Long Island. Home prices in the 5 towns average around 1.1 million, putting residents in the rank of New York's upper middle class, but below the city's ultra-wealthy elite. Alan W., Gluck's son-in-law, now serves as the treasurer of the American Friends of the Beit El Yeshiva Center. In addition to running the Beit El Center and a small business accounting firm, W., I'm not even going to pronounce that because I might screw it up, is on the board of his local synagogue. His address is listed is listed on official charity documents as a single-family house on a 6,400 square foot property. In other words, he's a picture-perfect suburban success story. The village of Lawrence, one of the 5 towns, has a sister city agreement with the Ma'ale Adiyam Adamum, another Israeli settlement in the West Bank. Lawrence Mayor Ronald Goldman told 972 magazine that his support for Israel was about bonding with another democracy, which there is nothing democratic about them.
No.
Asked whether the legal status of the settlements affected his choice of Israeli sister city, Goldman said that politics is not our thing. Of course it's your thing. Stop being a lying dickhead.
Exactly. How is this not politics?
Yeah. Once a group of camper vans, Beit El has grown to look more like the 5 towns. The Forward Jewish American newspaper describes the Beit El as a radical settlement with the feel of a family-friendly Orthodox suburb where children leave their bikes unlocked on the sidewalk, and the main roundabout is decorated with 3-foot-tall sculptures of pomegranates, grapes, and figs, while many Israelis move to the West Bank in pursuit of cheap government-subsidized housing, probably paid for by the U.S. government as well. Beit El caters to a hardline ideological constituency. Arutz Shiva, a right-wing media outlet founded by Katz, is also headquartered there. The most famous American connected to the settlement may be Daniel Boehm, a teenager yeshiva student who was shot dead by Hamas gunmen waiting for a bus outside of Beit El in May 1996. Boehm's parents filed a lawsuit against the Holy Land Foundation and the Islamic Association for Palestine, 2 Palestinian American charities that they accused of supporting Hamas. So this goes way back.
Back, yes.
And a U.S. court awarded the Boehm family $156 million. Because the charities in question there have since been shut down, the Boehm family has spent 2 decades trying to collect the money from other allegedly linked Palestinian American organizations. Palestinians are attempting similar strategy to gain compensation for land lost to settlers. In 2017, dozens of Palestinian villages and Palestinian American activists filed a lawsuit against American charities that fund settlements, including the American Friends of Beit El Yeshiva Center, for trespassing and war crimes. The case continues to make its way slowly through the courts, which dismissed it and then reopened it on appeal. Lawyers for the pro-settler charities argue that the U.S. judicial system has no jurisdiction over intractable political questions in a foreign land, which they support financially, heavily financially.
Mm-hmm.
But Israeli courts have ruled on these political questions. The Israeli government has demolished 2 unfurnished Beit El apartment buildings in 2015, and a court ruled on behalf of the Palestinian owners of the land, leading to riots by the settlers. According to the Israeli government document leaked to Haaretz, the settlement was built almost entirely on private Palestinian land, either confiscated by the Israeli government and turned over to the settlement and seized outright by the Israeli squatters. The contrast between the settlement and its neighbors is stark. Beit El has just under 7,000 people living on land that covers about 6/10 of a square mile. So that's like 380 probably almost 400 acres of property there in the Jala zone. By contrast, hosts around 16,000 refugees, more than double the number of settlers, in a space of about 1/6 of the size of Beit El. The houses here are so crowded, when you open a window, you can find the window of another house. The streets are narrow, barely enough room for a car. Jalazon resident Fadl al-Rahami recently told the Palestinian media that thing. So there's from what they're explaining there ain't enough room in there to cuss a cat without getting hair in your mouth.
Yeah, there's no room. Everybody's on top of each other.
Yeah. That theme comes up over and over again in interviews with Jalazon residents. There was never an opportunity to leave the camp due to the economic conditions that we live in, an elderly resident told Palestinian journalist Murad Ada in an Instagram video. The worst part of the crowdedness, the crowdedness of homes, the crowdedness of living, the buildings on top of each other. The director of the Palestinian rock climbing group Wadi Climbing, Momim, said in a text messages that the settlers from Beit El have been trying to encroach on the cliffs in the nearby Palestinian village of Ian Yabrud for several years now. He knew that the settlers were from Beit El because it is the only settlement next to the cliff, and every single time we go there, they come out. He added that the Palestinian lands are prohibited for us, even for climbing use, just because there is a settlement nearby. So they can't even have fun on their own fucking land. Yeah, fuck that. Go have fun. So that they can want to make sure that the settlers are comfortable not to see Palestinians around. Well, motherfucker, you're on their goddamn land.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. What the hell? You're from New York, New Jersey, and you're coming over there, somebody else's land, and you want to hide the indigenous people that live there.
Over the past year, he said the settlers have begun bringing soldiers. Momim shared a video from February 2023 showing a group of Israelis atop a cliff near the village of Berka. The land of Israel is for the Jewish in Hebrew, and the climbers below. Another settler in the video appears to be Alicia Yered, who was banned from the West Bank by the Israeli government and placed under house arrest in August 2023 after allegedly shooting a Palestinian teenager in Berka. Yered is from Yitzhar, a settlement an hour's drive north of Beit El. Another video taken that day before last October's Hamas attack near Gaza shows soldiers hanging around the cliff near Ian Yabrud and questioning climbers. "This is our property," a soldier says in English, clutching his rifle, told by a climber that the cliff is actually Palestinian property. The soldier arches his eyebrows. "We check if this is true," he responds with an air of skepticism. Then he begins to search the climbers' bags. Good God.
Crazy.
This here just gets a turn for the worst.
It does. The everyday life of the Palestinians. And these people just
It's
coming in,
harder
invading.
and harder and harder.
Mm-hmm.
Gordon said in a text message that he is not aware of this. If it at all is true, and I don't know what is, it's probably lands owned by the state and not a cliff that belongs to Ian Yabrud. We respect purchase property rights more often not when Arabs or anarchists claim land that was stolen. It is not theirs, never purchased by them, and is state lands. Yeah, motherfucker, you're full of shit. You stole that land. You're selling stolen land. You should be in jail.
Right, they don't recognize the property deeds.
No, not at all. They have probably never recognized it.
No. They just want to steal it all because of their mythology.
Yeah, due to their own hatred for indigenous people, just like European settlers in North America.
Yeah.
Our ancestors.
Coming over, just thinking you could just take the land. And the same thing with religion being used.
For all the fighting over land, neither the Israelis nor the Palestinians in the region live as spaciously as the American suburbanites who fund the Israeli settlers. The 4 square mile village of Lawrence is about 6,800 people, who thus have per resident about 7 times the space of the Beit El settlers. Residents of the 5 towns mobilized in support of Israel after October 7th, setting up a warehouse in Lawrence to gather supplies for Israeli troops. Volunteers loaded pallets of flashlights, first aid kits, and other bullshit onto a forklift decorated with the Israeli flag. An ice cream truck offered free food to the volunteers, according to the Wall Street Journal. The appeal for drones sent out to Gordon's mailing list has since grown into a thermal drone matching campaign run by the One Israel Fund, another charity based in the 5 towns that supports the West Bank settlements. The group hosts tours of the West Bank and holds annual wine tasting barbecues in the 5 towns to fund settlement security projects, although it usually raises $3 million annually. The One Israel Fund took in $2.5 million in the month after October 7th, according to the Long Island Herald.
It's crazy.
Yeah, all this money and shit that is being donated
to displace people from their indigenous land. By people that these people that are Jewish, they are Ashkenazi. They go to East. Their background goes to Eastern Europe. That's their bloodline. They at some point in history converted to Judaism. So DNA wise, they're not linked to that land. The Palestinians are.
The One Israel Fund has been sending drones to settlements since at least 2020. The new drone campaign aims to provide Chinese-made Evo 2 quadcopters, which they have put sanctions on Israel as well, which costs about $6,500 a pop. Gordon said on the mailing list that the effort has far raised $162K, with $180K in matching funds from a group of donors in Baltimore, according to the One Israel Fund website, which lists all of the donations. Some donors earmarked their drones for specific settlements. An ophthalmologist in Maryland, which donated $50,000 by himself. Another man gave $75, claiming in the comment section that it is all I have right now. No ceasefire until Hamas is gone. Yeah, fuck you.
I mean, these people are sick.
They're sick they're fucked in the head. Is what I have to say. Palestinians have reported intimidation and harassment by drones. A photo of a metal object with the words "Fuck all Arabs" written in English on one side circulated on social media. It was allegedly dropped from a drone onto the Palestinian town of Katana, an hour's drive south of Beit El. A viral video allegedly taken in Masafir at the southern end of the West Bank shows a quadcopter broadcasting a threatening message from a loudspeaker. "We advise you to watch out for yourselves and your children," the speaker says in Arabic. Hovering a few feet from a Palestinian family's balcony, "If anyone thinks of doing anything, we will reach him and kill him necessary." Gordon says those reports were utterly ridiculous to me. "I have been eyewitness to events." Yeah. We know you're lying through your damn teeth, buddy. Yeah, my voice is getting scratchy.
Mm-hmm.
But we know what's going on here. Like the whole article, we already know what's going on here.
Right. They're going to deny every single claim that's made. It doesn't matter how many pictures. It doesn't matter how it's filmed. They're going to deny it and say, oh, the settlers, that they're good people. They're just, minding their own business, which we know they're not.
Exactly.
They're on film, raiding villages, burning down homes, beating up farmers and everything else.
They have been
Burning down
beating innocent people since the Nakba.
Yeah.
So many innocent people that have no, I just have no words for this.
Harsh is here. Harsh says hello to you.
Howdy, Harsh. But we know what's going on.
Yes, we do. We've seen it over and over, but now we're seeing the funding from these wealthy people. And they're just going to keep funding. And it's just going to be a way to stop all this. The more people fight back, and as more people are become aware and awakened to it.
And they need to wake up and realize that their politicians are being funded by these groups.
Mm-hmm.
Like CPAC being one of them, which is heavily funded by IPAC. You've also got a lot of Democrats and Republicans who both go to IPAC every year together.
Right, and you hear their speeches or read them, and you see how they kiss up.
Yeah, they
It's
kiss
disgusting.
each other's ass.
I mean, who could love Israel the most? It's disgusting the way they act.